In the skies above the Aegean, the most dangerous enemy is the one you can't see. Picture this: a Greek F-35, a stealth ghost, gliding through the night. On its wing, not another pilot, but a swarm of AI-powered drones. Loyal wingmen now want to confuse defenses, jam radars, and strike without hesitation. This isn't science fiction. It's the new reality of modern warfare, and it has already changed the balance of power in the Mediterranean. For Turkey, whose air force once dominated the region, this is nothing short of a nightmare. For decades, Turkey has kept hundreds of F-16s, the largest fleet in the region, backed by an ever-expanding navy and armies of drones. But what happens when the old rules no longer apply? And numbers mean nothing. When a single jet, undetected, can destroy you before you even know it's there? This video dives into the most unsettling possibility of all, that Greece's defenses leap, built as a shield against Turkish pressure, could push Ankara to consider the unthinkable: nuclear arms. Because when the scales of power tip too far, history shows nations will do whatever it takes to restore balance, even if that means breaking the ultimate taboo. The question we ask is simple: could the nuclear clock for Turkey already be ticking faster than anyone realizes? To understand why Ankara is so alarmed, you first have to find out the lethal ecosystem Greece is actually building. On paper, the deal is straightforward. 20 F-35 stealth fighters have already been confirmed, with an option for 20 more. That's potentially 40 fifth-generation jets. Enough to transform the balance of power in the Aegean in a way that the region has never seen before. But the F-35 is not just another fighter. It's a network node, a system, and soon it won't fly alone. A jet will be escorted in the future by swarms of AI-powered drones, so-called loyal wingmen, built to expand its vision, multiply its strike power, and protect its pilot from threats. Think about that: a single F-35 may enter the sky with a half a dozen drones on its wings, each one able to jam radar, launch missiles, or serve as decoys. And Greece isn't just buying jets, it's fusing an entire ecosystem. The F-35s will operate seamlessly with the French-made Rafale fighters already in Greek service, along with the new Bel Hera and Frim frigates and advanced submarines entering the Hellenic Navy. A Turkish jet or ship entering Greek airspace or waters will not face just one adversary. It will face a network of connected platforms that can see it, track it, and strike it from every possible angle. So why the sudden leap? Well, here's the thing. Turkey's Blue Homeland strategy claims vast swaths of the Aegean Sea. Pushing lines deep into Greece's waters, add the constant airspace violations. President Erdogan's own warning: Turkish forces may come suddenly one night. Faced with this, Athens had no choice. This arsenal isn't for conquest, it's the only way to level a playing field that has always been tilted against them. But how does Ankara respond when the old rules don't apply anymore? By the way, only 12% of you watching have subscribed. If you appreciate deep dive geopolitical analysis, hit like and subscribe. It helps us make more videos like this. For decades, Turkey's military strategy was built on numbers. More jets, more ships, more soldiers. And on paper, Ankara still holds that advantage. Its Air Force fields about 250 F-16s, supported by one of the largest drone fleets in the world. Its Navy outnumbers Greece's, with more hulls patrolling the Mediterranean. To a large extent, Turkey remains the dominant power in the region, but numbers are losing their meaning. Think of it this way: you can send 10, 20, even 50 fighters into the air, but if your opponent sees you first and shoots first, those numbers don't matter. The arrival of Greek F-35s soon escorted by AI-powered drones, means Turkish pilots will be stepping into a battlefield where they're blinded before they even begin. This is why Ankara is desperate for its own counter. Its flagship project is the KAAN, a fifth-generation fighter Turkey is trying to build at home. On paper, KAAN promises stealth, speed, and advanced sensors. But here's the catch. It is years away from becoming a credible adversary. As a top Turkish minister recently revealed, engineers are still struggling with engines, avionics, and software integration. By the time KAAN is ready, Greek F-35s could already dominate the Aegean sky. So Turkey looks elsewhere. In late September, Erdogan met Trump at the White House. Ankara again raised the idea of re-entering the F-35 program, but there's a wall standing in the way. CAATSA sanctions and a U.S. Congress still furious about Turkey's purchase of Russian S-400s. Legally and politically, the path back to the F-35 looks nearly impossible. Instead, Turkey walked away with smaller deals like civilian nuclear reactors for non-military purposes, discussions about new Patriot missile batteries, and upgraded F-16s. Useful? Yes. But none of them come close to matching the F-35. And now, Ankara feels betrayed by NATO. Expelled from the F-35 program, cold-shouldered by its allies, and forced to watch as its rival, Greece, receives top-tier technology. Every Rafale jet, every Belhara frigate, every F-35 delivery is seen in Ankara not as a defensive move, but as favoritism, as proof that NATO prefers Athens over Ankara. And yet, here's the irony. Greece's modernization isn't about aggression, it's about survival. For every F-35 in a Greek hangar, there are Turkish warships circling contested waters. For every Belhara frigate, there's a blue homeland map claiming half the Aegean. Athens doesn't want to start a war, it wants to make sure it can survive one. But here's the danger. When a rival arms to survive and your own options keep dwindling, you could become desperate. So if Turkey decides to cross the line, does it have the technical capability, or will it take a dangerous shortcut with a nuclear ally? In times of geopolitical uncertainty like this, I prefer investments that can turn volatility into growth. Case in point, one ETF I've been following is up about 46% since January. I'll tell you which one and why in a moment. I do this through Freedom 24 because the fees are competitive, the platform is straightforward, and I can get support in my own language when I need them. And here's the simple reason I invest at all. Uninvested cash loses purchasing power to inflation. Every year it sits idle. It buys a little less. That's why I put money to work deliberately and diversify with ETFs. Think of an ETF as a single basket that holds a whole collection of different stocks. It's a simple way to get the diversification that lowers your risk without having to analyze hundreds of companies yourself. Right now, one ETF that I'm especially watching is the Alpha ETF with ticker symbol AETF, which has delivered a 46% performance since the start of the year. I'm all about building steady exposure to solid companies while still riding the wave of strong performance. As always, investing involves risk. Forecast and past performance are not reliable indicators of future results. A quick note. The sign-up process might take about 15 minutes due to strict EU financial regulations, but it's worth it because apart from being a great investment tool, Freedom 24 also provides an organized feed of official corporate news and market announcements all in one place. Check the description for details on Freedom 24 welcome offer. And if you join through our link, you'll help this channel grow. For years, the idea of a nuclear-armed Turkey sounded like fiction. Ankara was a NATO member bound by the Non-Proliferation Treaty, protected by the American nuclear umbrella. But in 2019, President Erdogan himself broke the silence. Standing before his party, he asked, Some countries have missiles with nuclear warheads, but we can't have them? I do not accept this. It was the first time a Turkish leader publicly floated the thought, and once spoken, the taboo was broken. So how real is the possibility? Technically, Turkey has a foundation to build on. Its defense industry is one of the most advanced in the Muslim world, producing advanced drones, precision missiles, satellites, and even the framework for next-generation fighter jets. Add to that its growing civilian nuclear infrastructure, the massive Aegean power plant built by Russia, and new deals for modular reactors signed under the guise of non-military purposes. In reality, every reactor has the potential dual-use pathways for something far more dangerous. So, building a bomb from scratch takes time, and Turkey knows it, which is why many analysts warn of a Pakistan shortcut. See, Pakistan is one of Turkey's closest military allies. Their air forces train together, their defense industries collaborate, and their political ties are warm. Decades ago, Pakistan secretly shared nuclear technology with Iran, Libya, and North Korea. Could Ankara soon ask Islamabad for a similar favor? It's a scenario few want to admit, but one that fits too neatly with Turkey's urgent need for deterrence. But here's the part that should terrify NATO. This wouldn't be Turkey's first time. In the 2000s, Turkish companies were caught assembling centrifuge parts for the KAAN network, the same proliferation ring that armed Iran, Libya, and North Korea. Turkish entities were sanctioned by Washington, but the damage was done. The infrastructure, the relationships, the know-how, it all exists. And the timeline is suspicious. In December 2020, just months after Erdogan's nuclear statement, Turkey and Pakistan held their HLMDG in Ankara to deepen defense ties. Intelligence analysis reported discussions about nuclear delivery systems. Was it just talk? Maybe. But when two countries are already co-producing corvettes, upgrading F-16s, and sharing drone technology, the line between conventional and nuclear cooperation gets dangerously thin. And the regional picture only makes things worse. Israel already sits across the Mediterranean with an undeclared nuclear arsenal and its own fleet of F-35s. In any conflict, Greece and Israel could find themselves on the same side, two F-35 operators against Turkey. From Ankara's perspective, this isn't just about Greece anymore. It's about being surrounded by stealth jets and nuclear powers without either of its own. History reveals what could happen next. Pakistan turned to nukes when it couldn't match India's conventional power. North Korea did the same under the shadow of the United States and South Korea. In each case, the logic was brutally simple. When you can't win with planes and tanks, you reach for the ultimate deterrent. For Turkey, watching Greek F-35s fly uncontested above the Aegean, that same logic may one day feel irresistible. And here's the catch. Crossing this line would come at an extraordinary cost. Turkey is a signatory of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. To pursue the bomb, it would have to either break away from the treaty or hide a program in defiance of international inspectors. Either path would mean more sanctions, isolation, and perhaps the collapse of NATO trust. And yet, history has shown when nations feel survival is on the line, even the highest costs don't always stop them. And so, one question lingers. Is Ankara merely bluffing with nuclear words? Or are we watching the first cracks in an offensive that could reshape the entire balance of the Eastern Mediterranean? A Turkish nuclear program wouldn't just change the game, it would flip the entire board. Inside NATO, it would trigger an existential crisis. Imagine this. One member, Greece, flying US-made stealth jets. The other, Turkey, racing toward nuclear weapons. How could Article 5, the alliance's sacred promise of collective defense, survive when trust between members is shattered? If Ankara built the bomb, Washington and Brussels would be forced to answer a painful question. Is Turkey still an ally? or a rogue state hiding under NATO's flag. The ripple effect wouldn't stop there. In the Middle East, every capital would take notice. Saudi Arabia has long warned it would match Iran bomb for bomb. A Turkish move could push Riyadh to act, perhaps by fast-tracking its own deal with Pakistan. Egypt, too, would be unwilling to stand idle while a regional rival goes nuclear. Within months, the world's most volatile region could morph into a nuclear arms race. And then comes the great power dilemma. Moscow is already Turkey's nuclear partner, building its reactors and selling its air defenses. Would Russia quietly welcome a nuclear-armed Turkey as a thorn in NATO's side? Or would it see Ankara's bomb as a threat on its southern flank? Meanwhile, the U.S. would be cornered. Sanctions could cripple Turkey's economy, but at the risk of driving one of NATO's most strategic members straight into Moscow's arms. Either choice risks unraveling decades of delicate balance. For Greece, all of this sounds ironical. Athens' military buildup, the Rafales and Belhera and Frim frigates, the F-35s, isn't meant to provoke. It's meant to deter. The Blue Homeland Doctrine openly claims vast swaths of the Aegean. Erdogan himself has warned we may come suddenly one night. For Greeks living on vulnerable islands like Castellarizo, those words aren't bluster. They're a real, lived dread, and every new weapon system is a shield against that threat. And yet, this shield may carry unintended consequences. Defensive modernization meant to preserve peace could, paradoxically, push Ankara to go nuclear. So, as this arms race accelerates, will the utter fear of war force Greece and Turkey toward a stable but uneasy deterrence, or is this tension simply too volatile to contain? Well, Greece's decision to acquire the F-35 is not an act of aggression, but a foundational move to reestablish deterrence and uphold international law in the Aegean. By investing in fifth-generation air power and multi-domain defense systems, Athens is sending a clear message. Aggressive doctrines like Blue Homeland will no longer go unpunished. This modernization secures the sovereign rights of the Hellenic Republic and aligns the southeastern flank of NATO with a cutting edge of military technology. And here's what this really means. Greece is no longer negotiating from weakness. The days of Turkish jets buzzing Greek islands with impunity are over. The era of Ankara making territorial claims without consequences has ended. When you have F-35s patrolling the Aegean with sensor fusion that sees everything, when you have Rafales armed with Meteor missiles that outrange anything Turkey flies, you have Belhera frigates creating an impenetrable naval shield, you don't beg for respect, you command it. Turkey now faces a choice, except that the balance has shifted and return to the negotiating table as equals, or continue down a path of escalation that leads nowhere good. Because if Ankara chooses nuclear brinkmanship over accepting Greece's legitimate defense, that's not Athens' failure. That's Erdogan's gamble with Turkey's future. The question isn't whether Greece has the right to defend itself. The answer is obvious. The question is whether the rest of NATO will finally recognize that appeasing aggression only invites more of it. Greece just proved that strength, not weakness, is the path to peace in the Eastern Mediterranean. And that's a lesson the entire region needs to learn. Special thanks to Freedom24 for making this analysis possible. If you're serious about building a great financial future, be sure to check them out in the description below. If this analysis showed you the real power shift happening in the Aegean, hit subscribe, because Money Trail is the only channel connecting these dots. Check out these videos next, because this story is far from over.